Hey everybody, what's going on? It is James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have a Bitcoin / cryptocurrency market update for February the 25th, 2022. We're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about the stock market, whether this crash was an opportunity to buy or whether it's the sign of things to come. And of course, we're going to look at some charts. And if I if I sound like I feel better compared to the last few videos I did, I do feel better. Happy to say that after about 6.5 weeks, I finally got over COVID. So I've been feeling better for a few weeks now. I had a birthday last week and just been going good, right? Of course, when the market does what you've been saying it's going to do for the last 6 months, that always helps because there's money to be made, and it's been a good week for me, while other people unfortunately have suffered. So we'll talk about all that in this video. Before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and of course, don't forget to check the description for a link where you can join Patreon. Right now, it's just $7 a month, but after this month, for new members, the price will be increasing. So if you don't sign up before the end of the month, that will be your only chance to do so for $7 a month. So the first thing we're going to talk about is actually the stock market, because it's really important to understand what the stock market is doing so that you can get a better idea of what cryptocurrency is doing. So I posted a chart up in December, on December 7th, and that chart was a chart of the DIA, which was the ETF or one of the ETFs for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, this was the chart that I posted up, hypothesizing that we were actually in distribution and nearing the end of it. This was close, but not exactly right. I thought that this was potentially going to be the last point of supply back there in December. What actually happened was the UTAB went a little further up. This is just a weekly chart, same chart, just weekly instead of daily. So the UTAB went a little further up. I thought this was the last point of supply. Went a little further up, then fell down, and then we got the last point of supply. So if you look at this chart, right, you had the chop up here. If this drop here on this chart would be this drop, that little dead cat bounce would be this, and then of course we broke down a couple of days ago, okay? Now, yesterday and today, a lot of the stocks are pumping, so people are excited. They're like, I bought the dip, look, I'm a genius, yada, 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 the same old stuff. Maybe it was the dip, maybe the bottom is in, and maybe it's going up. I am not a mind reader. I am not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is we broke through our sign of weakness, which was back here, right? This here did that. You're supposed to get a dead cat bounce, right? That bounce is supposed to go back up. And in fact, I told a friend a couple of days ago that I would be looking for longs the next day, which of course was yesterday. Okay, that's supposed to bounce. And that's what it's doing. Of course, after that bounce and after that consolidation, then you get your markdown phase, right? If you have distribution, distribution doesn't end with one leg down. Distribution normally ends with, a huge retracement against the market. And I'm not going to go through a ton of stocks because this video will end up being 2 hours long, but you don't have to look very far to see this, okay? I will pull up a quick stock chart. There's a long position actually that I was showing my buddy the other day. All right, so we'll get that off of there and take a look at again, don't want to go through a bunch of stocks. I'll just show you a couple of stocks here. For example, you got major companies. Here's PayPal. I don't know if people have noticed this. A lot of people just stare at the major indexes and they don't realize that the bubble did pop. Speculative bubble popped last year, and a lot of these major stocks have really been traumatized. And I think we have yet to see that in all the different sectors and all the different stocks. So this one, PayPal down almost 70%. You've got companies like Roku. I'm not going to measure everyone because it'll make it take longer. 50, 60, 70% down. You've got companies like Zillow. Bam. You have companies like Facebook, right? Bam. And by the way, a lot of that happened in one day. It was like a 20% drop one day, down 50%. You got companies like Netflix. Bam. You have companies like even Amazon. Yes, even Amazon, right? Horrific drop here for a $3,000 stock. 28% drop. You have companies like, the list just goes on and on. Here's my favorite. The ETF ARK, Kathy Wood in the news all the time. She's supposedly some brilliant investor because she bought Bitcoin and Tesla back here. Well, congratulations. So do a lot of people that don't know anything about investing. But you can see that since that, her fund has done nothing but go down, down, down. Okay. Somebody commented on Facebook about this saying, last year when I tried to tell people I wasn't a fan of Kathy Wood, they were talking about themselves. People would say, well, what do you know compared to some billionaire investor? Well, I got the same thing. When I would tell people last year that I didn't, care for Kathy Wood, I didn't like her videos, I thought she was arrogant, I didn't think she knew what she was talking about, and I didn't go quite that far, I wasn't quite that mean about it, but I said I just didn't, agree with her opinions is really what I said. People kind of rolled their eyes like, dude, you're sitting in some spare bedroom, she's managing an ETF. Well, guess what? I never said I was more successful than her. She's obviously very successful, very business savvy. But as far as investing goes, I don't understand the hip haw around her. Look at this. Her fund dropped almost 64% in the same time period. Some smuck like me sitting in a spare bedroom, my portfolio is going up, up, up. Most people were having a really good year. I don't know how you lose almost 70% from February last year to February of this year. It's insane to me to lose 70% in 1 year, right? Insane. But it's also kind of a telltale sign because the ARK fund, what she's investing in is what she calls innovation. They're tech stocks. What is cryptocurrency? It's a tech, right? And so I've always said that I view crypto, well, not always, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've said I view crypto as just another tech stock. And so, all the people who were screaming store of value this whole time, well, Bitcoin once again has not acted like a store of value. When the stock market started to crash, Bitcoin crashed with it. Period. That's what happened. Okay, it's what happens every single time stocks crash and Bitcoin goes down. It does not behave as a store of value. You know what didn't go down? Gold. What's gold been doing lately? Going up, 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 right? The last month. Bitcoin, not so much. Okay, so just kind of a overview of what stocks are doing. Okay, I know most people that watch this channel are probably trading crypto or trying to hodl some crypto. Maybe some of you are new and you're finally starting to think, oh God, maybe James was actually right. Maybe that 69,000 really was the top. Well, I think so, guys. I think so. I'm gonna go back to Facebook because I post a lot of stuff over there and it's easier than digging through Patreon, but there's some charts over here that we need to talk about. So this chart was a chart that I first posted again last year. Posted this in November, right when Bitcoin was up around $69,000, saying that I thought that was the upthrust, and that after that we would. And you can go back and verify. This is on the YouTube channel. This was all posted right publicly and online. But I said that after that we'd either get, I thought we'd either get a UTAD after we came down, or a weaker pump for our last point of supply. Well, that's what has happened so far. So here is that. See if we can get a little bigger picture. So if you look, when this came down, right, it tagged the bottom of the channel. I felt like that was kind of this point right here, where this green rocket ship is. And I felt like we would go back up, which we did, right, up to around 45K or so is where we went to. And then I felt like we would pull back to around 40K. Okay, and then kind of move up toward the 50K or so level. Now, when we pulled back to 40K, I had posted on Facebook. If you're not a member of the group, you might have missed this. I posted that, hey, maybe it was Patreon I posted it. I don't remember. I don't want to be a liar. Let me look. Yes, okay, I did post it on Facebook. So the first part of the theory is hit. This was back on February 18th. Unfortunately, that move to the 19-week moving average, which was that pump up to around 50K that I was, kind of shooting for back here in this post. I said, unfortunately, that move is going to be tough with stocks falling out of the bed. And so, of course, it didn't move up. It did not move up toward that 50-week moving average. It continued to go down, and it went down all the way, of course, to $35,000 back here, right? This was yesterday. What did it get down to? About 34.3K? So many crickets, right? Just kept falling down. So hopefully, let's get back to, I can pull this weekly chart up. It should still be mocked up. Hopefully, with stocks bouncing right now, this has a chance. It's still on there, goodness. Okay, hopefully this has a chance now to move up toward this 50K or so level. And if you want to look at the 19-week moving average, right now, it took a really bad downturn because of this price. When I did the chart, this was up around this area, so that's what I was shooting for. But of course, now our 19-week moving average has curled down to around 49,000. So, and it's going to continue to curl down as long as price is underneath it. So this pump probably won't get back to this level, unfortunately. So I would still look for a retest of the 19-week moving average. If we look at the RSI, we're back inside this little bear market box. So again, as I said in the past, a lot of times this presents a buying opportunity, and I think it's going to be a buying opportunity here. I think it's what will end up being in the future, because I do think it's going to move up to this area. Same thing with this. I think it'll move up to that area. A lot depends on the stocks, okay? And we're going to look at stocks in just a second. Again, not because you want to trade stocks necessarily, but because Bitcoin is so, it overreacts to stocks. So basically the way I view it, it's like dominoes, right? Bitcoin overreacts to stocks, and then altcoins overreact to Bitcoin. So this is our 3-day chart, and you can see that this looks pretty sexy here. You got two nice tails in these candles. Of course, this candle isn't closed yet, and this very well could end up being a double bottom, and that could be very interesting. Maybe it's a double bottom, and this is not a bear market at all, and this actually ends up being, going way up. That'd be awesome. I'd be okay with that. Trade it and make money on the little hedge fund I have. But more likely, I think what's probably going to happen is this is going to do something like this. Come up here and fake people out, make it look like a double bottom, then probably leave some wicks behind up in this area, and then completely shit the bed. That's what I expect to happen. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. That's just my guess, if you want to call it that. All right, we did have this head and shoulders, of course, so a lot of different possibilities on the table. If we look at a daily chart real quick, which I have not done yet today because I was getting appliances delivered, what a nightmare that was. They showed up, and I already got rid of my my stove. I had the city come pick it up, and they show up today, and lo and behold, the stove I bought was badly damaged, and they couldn't deliver it. So we haven't had a stove since the 16th of February. Just really not fun going through appliances. All right, 200-day moving average, way up here around 49K. So again, kind of close to that 19-week moving average. So again, a bearish retest of that would be very textbook. Go up there, hit those levels, and then maybe dump from there. 50-day moving average is going to be right here. So we're getting close to testing that right now. Of course, we did have a true death cross on the CME on the daily Bitcoin chart on Coinbase. This isn't a true death cross because the 200 was going up and the 50 was going down. But if you look at the CME, and sorry for the alerts, it's TradingView. I set one alert that was supposed to go off one time, and it's going off every 5 minutes, it seems like. So I have to go in and adjust that. But if we look at the CME, we can see that this was a true death cross. First one ever on the CME for Bitcoin, by the way. 200 curling down, 50 curling down. That has never happened in the history of the CME, which of course goes back to 2017 with Bitcoin. Okay, so it's really interesting what's happening right now. We did fill in this gap back here, so that was nice. I really think that you just got to keep an eye on what stocks are doing. So let's go look at stocks, and more specifically, let's look at the NASDAQ. Okay, so we're going to go over here to present day. Whoops. So this is present day right here. And of course, I know a lot of people are probably pretty excited. A lot of retail traders are pretty excited, thinking, look how smart I am. I bought, the bottom. This thing has moved up over 8%. A lot of individual stocks had even bigger bounces. For example, yesterday, NEO, which is a stock I trade heavily, traded, sometimes hundreds of times a month. Well, it had like a 20% day yesterday, okay? But I want you to really think about what's happening here, okay? We've just had this big move down. How many times did you guys see me post bubble charts? What does every single bubble have for the most part? You've got your euphoria peak. You have your big dump. You have the people who buy the dip or don't know it yet, but a falling knife. You have your complacency bounce. And then you have your bear market kickoff, right? We see that in almost every single bubble. Well, this blue line down here is actually the 200-week moving average, which is extremely reliable in the tech markets. And you can see here how awesome that was, the signal back here. Works the same way on Bitcoin. If you put a 200-week on Bitcoin, if you really want to get technical, which is a side note, put the 200 month on the NASDAQ and compare it to the 200 week on Bitcoin, and you'll find out they look almost exactly the same. But anyway, so 200 week moving average, obviously got way off of it. This is the .com bubble, came back down. This is your, your big crash, right? People were buying the dip, catching that falling knife, thinking it was a dip. Had the day cap bounce right to the 61.8, the hodler soul crushing zone, as I like to call it, and then boom, bear market kicks off, and the NASDAQ ended up dropping over 83% in the .com bubble. It took it about 2 years to get to that target, right? It peaked out in early 2000 and finally bottomed in late 2002. Now, why is that important? Well, it's not super important, but it's worth noting because if you look at the NASDAQ today, it looks a hell of a lot like it looked in 2000. Huge run up, right? Big dip. And it's very possible, and again, way off the 200 here, very possible that we're going to get some kind of complacency bounce back up to that golden pocket, okay? Which, by the way, even if you're not a fib trader, right here is resistance, right? Just like over on this chart, if you zoom in, yeah, this big tails that came up and tested those tails, try to get some of that demand, right? Demand flips to supply, resistance down, blah, 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 right? So back here, demand, now it's flipped to, supply. Again, goes up here, very, very possible that this is what we end up seeing. That's the complacency bounce, and then, everything falls out of bed. Now, again, that's really important in terms of Bitcoin, because if that happens, if the NASDAQ and the stocks are pumping toward that level, that's a pretty significant move, right? From where we're at right now in the NASDAQ, that's about 9%. Now, in crypto, 9% is kind of, whatever. But 9% on the stock market is a huge deal. That's a really big move. And so it's very possible that Bitcoin could overreact to that good news, or what seems to be good news, and run toward that $45,000, $50,000 mark, okay? Maybe even a little higher. We just don't know. But it's very, very, textbook stuff if that is what plays out. So, yeah, I think this is bullish for Bitcoin in the short term, super short term, right? Maybe we get that complacency bounce. And if we go back over to Bitcoin, and I'm just going to pull up this chart real quick. Well, I'll just pull this one up, see if it's mocked up. It's not. Okay. This is the, I was trying to find that chart that I posted a few months ago. I can go to Twitter and find it. Okay. So here's that chart I posted up a few months ago. I think this was posted back November 18th. And this is what I was hypothesizing, was that Bitcoin was actually in a bubble versus not just US dollars, but also versus the NASDAQ itself, right? That it was actually outrunning the whole tech sector, and that it needed to come to reality. So that was, in that terms, this was the complacency bounce here, and I thought it would dump. Well, if we look at what it actually did, this was the US 100, which is, very similar to the QQQ. 3.62 is where it was at back then. So we'll just change this to the US 100 so we get a apples to apples. Okay, so it was up right. 3.62 was right. There's where it was back there. And look what's happened since then, right? So since that post, of course, it fell about 35% versus the US 100. And I still think there's more pain to come, but this could very well be a triangle, right? Not a complacency bounce like this that goes down. Could be a triangle. And so if we can get a pump where the stock market does move back up, to that hodler soul crushing zone, and if Bitcoin overreacts to that pump, well, guess what? That means it'll gain ground versus the US 100. It could move all the way back up to the top of this triangle. And then we'd have a lot of different signals all coming together at the same time to say, you might want to short Bitcoin, right? Or at least take some profits or whatever. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying you would have signals pointing toward that direction. And then, a short may present itself up here, and then bam, down she goes. And by the way, it's funny because I had people really, really hate on that chart when I posted it. And, now they have egg on their face. But if you really look at this chart, where did this chart really start to say, I probably ought to get out? Right through here, this chart was screaming, hey, there's a lot of supply up here. I should probably get out of my Bitcoin. Well, when was that? November. November of 2021 is when this chart was really saying, hey, Bitcoin is weak versus the tech market. Well, what happened in November? Oh, that's right. Right there, November 10th was the top, the all-time high for Bitcoin. So, people can laugh at my charts all they want, which is funny in this case because this is just a relative strength chart, measuring Bitcoin's relative strength versus US 100, which is something that all professional traders tend to do, is measure relative strength. Not RSI, but actual relative strength, right? But you had a very clear downtrend. Like, what is the problem? Why would anybody think it was a bad idea to look for shorts through this zone, right? On November 8th, that's a weekly candle, right? You kidding me? So if you shorted the close of that candle, you've been short on November 15th. Where would that have been on Bitcoin? Well, let's look at a Bitcoin chart, not a CME chart. Let's say you shorting on the open November 15th. Where would you have been short on Bitcoin? November 15th was right there. So you shorted the open right there. Let's draw a line. That's where that relative strength chart was telling you to short. Okay? And if you had, I'd say you'd be pretty happy right now, even if you were still sitting in the short, right? You'd be up 40%. And if you caught the bottom of the move and closed it on the channel, almost a 50% drop. So guys, girls, for those of you that still doubt me, or for those of you that still doubt technical analysis, don't. I don't care if you doubt me. That's who cares. I'm just some guy. But don't doubt technical analysis. This shit does work, and it does give you an idea. Is it 100%? Of course not. Nothing is. But does it give you an edge? Absolutely, it gives you an edge. And, I read a book a few years ago, and I think I reread it last year, in fact, where they compared being a trader to being the owner of a casino. Casinos make money because they have a small edge. And so, even if that edge is only a few percent, over the course of, billions of dollars being gambled, they make a lot of money. Well, if you're a trader, you take that small edge that technical analysis gives you, and you can make a lot of money, right? Unlimited amounts of money in these markets. So, yeah, that's a pretty in-depth look at, kind of what I think on the stock market, kind of what I think on Bitcoin. Again, right now, while I am overall bearish, looking for, a bear market that takes Bitcoin back to that $10,000 to $12,000 level at least, depending on what stocks do, it could go even lower than that. But assuming stocks don't completely melt down in some historic fashion, I think Bitcoin eventually revisits that 10 to 12,000 zone. But right now, I'm actually short-term, I would say more bullish, right? I'm still looking for that pump, that move toward that 19-week moving average or that 200-day moving average, those bearish retests. And, I'll just, again, mention that I think that pump depends heavily on the stock market also having a dead cat bounce and moving back toward that quote-unquote hodler crushing zone. If the stock market can't find legs and can't find support and starts to bleed back down next week, well, I think crypto goes with it. Okay, so I'm not rooting for the market to crash. I'm just simply sharing with you what I see when I look at a chart and try to keep an objective head about me. I've had people say, well, you're not objective, you're overly bearish. I don't think so, guys. I will freely admit that in 2020, I let my bias blind me. But if you really go through, and I had somebody get all bent out of shape in the Facebook group the other day, and they ended up leaving the group after being in there for 4 years, saying that I was repeating my 2020 mistakes by being so bearish. But I think if you really go and look through my Facebook or look through my YouTube, you will find that, while I missed the mark in 2020, and I freely admit that, I've been pretty damn accurate since then. My 2021 stuff was spot on. April, I called the top in April before that dump in the summertime, and I called the pump. I said, look, I think it's moving back up. I'm shooting for 45 to 49K. It did that. Then it came down, and I said, hey, it's putting in a double bottom on the daily. If it breaks 45K, I think it's going to move back up. And it did that, right? We can even go look at a daily chart. And I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying, people sometimes will discount my bearish views because they're like, well, he's just a bear, right? No. I called this top back here. Again, verifiable. You can go find it yourself. I said that I thought it needed to move up to 45 to 49K when it was ranging down here, which it did. Right through here, started to pull back, and I got out of any longs I was in, right, other than, again, the spot that I'm holding. It moved up here, which I found a bit surprising, but it was the golden pocket right? We'll draw that on there real quick so I kind of walk through this. Bam, right inside the golden pocket. And then it started to move down. And when it started to move down, I believed that this was actually going to do this. That's what I believed. I thought, okay, here's the bubble. It has popped, which it did pop back there. But then we had this up thrust. And if you remember, this line has been drawn there ever since September. I said, if it takes out this line, right, at the time we were down over here, I said, if it can go back up and take out the neckline, we'll have a double bottom, and I think it moves up from there. And that's exactly what happened. So it's not like I'm just sitting here like bear, 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 bear. You know, I'll play both sides, just like right now. I'm saying I'm more bullish than bearish. I think we've got to move up. I think we've got some bearish retests to take care of. But after that, this thing does not look good. Okay, it just doesn't. I think the last video I did, I was bullish as well. We had just put in 3 red candles. February had just opened. In fact, I know I was. I did it right on the 1st of February, and I said, it's very uncommon for Bitcoin to put in more than 3 red candles. I feel like we're going to get a green candle in February. And if you had found a reason on your own to go long that day on February 1st where that candle opened, well, Bitcoin moved up almost 20%. So no, I'm not a perma bear. I'm just trading the charts. And right now, these charts look really bad. This is a double top that's not yet confirmed. But one thing that you may not know about double tops, once I had a friend who taught trading, and he said, yeah, the right side has to be lower than the left side or it's not a double top. Well, guys, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. One of the best double tops you can get is where the right side is slightly higher than the left side and leaves behind huge wicks like this. That's one of the best signals you can get is right there. Okay? It has to close below that level for some people, and below that level would be even more ideal. And then you've got a true double top. And again, I think we're going back down here. Okay? We can put volume supply on there. We can do all kinds of stuff. And it will all point toward a move back down to these levels. So I got a phone call in the middle of that, or in the middle of this video. So I don't even know what I was saying when I paused the recording. But I think I was pretty much done. I mean, bottom line is this. Right now, short term, I'd like to see move up toward that, $49,000, $50,000 level again. Long term, I'm still looking at this as being, the beginning of what will be a pretty bad bear market. I think Bitcoin goes back down. But listen, reality is this. What I think is going to happen in 6 months or 12 months from now really has no bearing on today. Okay, it really doesn't. Why does it matter if Bitcoin's $10,000 in 6 months if it's going to be $50,000 first? Who cares? Who cares what it's going to be in 6 months? Let's worry about what it's doing in the short term. We can worry about the long term after it starts putting in bearish signals that say that it's going down. And again, this candle looks pretty bad. This is a bad monthly candle. Coming up and having a huge wick like that, if bulls can't fix this over the next couple of days, that does make me a bit nervous. And again, I think this is heavily dependent on what stocks do. Can stocks sustain this move and try to move back up toward that level? And also with that being said, listen, if I'm wrong about this being the top in the stock market and they bust through that level and they take out this high back here, who knows what Bitcoin does? Who the heck knows, right? I don't know what Bitcoin will do at that point, because one thing that's very different about Bitcoin, this cycle, if you want to call it that, is all the past cycles, basically space needle topped, up, down, right, on monthly charts. Even in the summer of 2019, up, down. We've never done anything quite like this on a monthly chart. And I think that's a result of so much institutional money now being involved. I do think that Bitcoin trades more like stocks than what it used to trade like. And so I do think there's a certain bit of danger involved in just assuming that, well, every time in the past Bitcoin had a bear market, and every single time in the past it went down 80 to 90%. It is easy to assume that, hey, that's going to happen again, which, by the way, this level happens to be right around 83%, which is what it crashed, in 2018 as well. From the top to the bottom was right at 84%. It's easy to assume that, but maybe this time is different. I mean, it's already been somewhat different, and I think it's just very important to, maybe have some ideas of what might happen, but also stay grounded, keep a close eye on the charts, and really listen to what the chart is telling you. Don't just assume that everything is going to be exactly the same as before. Right? That's how a lot of people got in trouble back here. The halvening was coming up, and every time the halvening was coming up, Bitcoin was supposed to pump, and this time it didn't. It actually dumped, right? And a lot of people got caught off guard by that. So again, pretty long video. It's over half an hour, depending on how much editing I have to do. It's going to be, hopefully a video that serves you well. It'll be the last video I do for February. So again, I will remind you, make sure you check the description now and join Patreon for just $7 a month, because starting March 1st, the price will increase for new members. Okay, old members will be locked into that rate. Also, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And do not forget that I am some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, which means that nothing in the video is financial advice. You should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, or Forex. This is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you to please trade safe.